morning, everyone. My name is Linda Hall with CTC. CTC, if you're new to us, is a parent-founded nonprofit serving young adults with developmental disabilities and their families, with a focus on helping them prepare for and navigate the transition out of school and into what we hope will be a full and meaningful life in the community. This Friday Forum is part of a larger educational outreach initiative that also includes informational tours and an annual transition summit. And we hope that the information you get from these events will help you as you build that meaningful life for your loved one or for the individuals that you serve. So today's topic is the DRS Home Services Program and the DDD home-based waivers. They're both waivers. As you probably know, these similarly named programs get confused quite a bit. So today we're going to be talking about those, how you qualify for those, what kind of funding you get from those, and how you can use that funding once you receive it. So our speakers today are Molly Chapman, Eliza Jones, and Krizzia Zimmermann. Molly Chapman began her career in 1997 working as a direct care provider for a local developmental training center. She has since worked in all levels of service provision for people with developmental disabilities, including in DHS Division of DD. For the past 8 years, Ms. Chapman has been the Assistant Bureau Chief of Programs with the Division of Rehab Services Home Services Program. In this role, she provides oversight for individuals receiving services through 3 of the state's Medicaid waiver programs: Persons with Disabilities Waiver, the Brain Injury Waiver, and the HIV/AIDS Waiver. Molly will be speaking first, and then followed by Eliza Jones and Krizzia Zimmermann. Eliza received her bachelor's in psychology from Southern Illinois University and has 17 years experience in the IDDD field. She spent 7 years working as a paraprofessional in a therapeutic day school, assisting with implementing multi-sensory lesson plans to students with developmental disabilities, learning disabilities, and behavioral emotional disturbances. Eliza transitioned from the school setting 10 years ago when she began working for Clearbrook's home-based services, first as a self-direction assistant, then HBS coordinator, and now as director of home-based services. She enjoys helping others to achieve their goals and find their voice. Krizzia Zimmermann obtained her bachelor's degree in human services psychology through National Louis University. She has experience working with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities through recreational therapeutic services, including equine therapy. She began her career at Clearbrook in 2020 as a self-direction assistant and now serves as a home-based services coordinator. So please help me welcome Molly Chapman to kick us off.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Linda. I'll start with, hopefully everyone can see my screen and my slides. I'll be doing a high-level overview of the Home Services Program. All right, so Home Services Program is part of the Division of Rehabilitation Services, which is underneath the umbrella of the Illinois Department of Human Services. The Division of Rehab works in partnership with people with disabilities and their families to assist them in making informed choices to achieve full community participation through employment, education, and independent living opportunities. So this morning, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Home Services Program. The Division of Rehabilitation also provides lots of other services for individuals with disabilities. Many of you may be familiar with vocational rehabilitation services that is also underneath the DRS umbrella. So the Home Services Program provides services to individuals with significant disabilities so they can remain living in their homes as independently as possible. Our ultimate goal is to keep people out of nursing homes and keep people in their homes, whatever place they call home, to live as independently as they can. HSP is based on an independent living philosophy, and that's the idea that the person with the disability is the best expert of their own needs. They have the crucial and valuable perspective to contribute and are deserving of equal opportunity to decide how they want to live, work, and take part in their communities, just like all of us are able to do, particularly in reference to services that powerfully affect their day-to-day lives and access to independence. And those are the people that are coming into your home, right? They're coming into your home to help you with some very personal tasks that are going to keep you as independent as possible and out of those nursing homes. So HSP funding, HSP supports individuals both with and without Medicaid. Everybody has to apply for Medicaid, but if you're denied Medicaid eligibility, yet you meet the eligibility criteria for the home services program, we will still support you. You will be considered 100% state funded. And there's no difference in those services. Your services are going to look the same. They're going to be as they would if you had been qualified to receive Medicaid. So eligible individuals that have Medicaid, they're going to be enrolled in one of the waivers. We right now have 3 of the state's waivers. Persons with disabilities, those are for individuals, that is for individuals under the age of 60. Once a person turns 60, they would, and if they're not already an HSP customer, they would have to submit a referral to the Department on Aging. The Department on Aging has a similar program to the Persons with Disabilities waiver home services program. So if you're over 60, you submit your referral to Department on Aging. If you're under 60, you submit your referral to the home services program. There are 2 caveats to that. The first one is if you have a brain injury. If you have a brain injury and if you're over the age of 60, you can still submit a referral to HSP. If you have a diagnosis of HIV or AIDS, you can still submit a referral to HSP. So becoming an HSP customer, these are the areas that I'm going to talk about. Submitting a referral, the eligibility criteria, the eligibility interview and assessment, the service cost maximums, and then service planning. So how to make a referral. Anyone can submit a referral. It does not have to be the individual who's wanting to receive services. Someone else can submit a referral on their behalf. We have an online referral system. You can find it. You can Google Illinois Home Services Program referral, and it should come up. Or you could follow the link in these slides, and that would take you there as well. You're going to look at rehabilitation services, and you're going to click Apply Online. Or you could call or visit the local HSP office. Now, HSP offices, we share office space with vocational rehabilitation, right? So all of the DRS services are going to be in these local offices. And many of the offices also share space with the local FCRC. So your local Medicaid or local public aid office is where you're going to find the DRS office. There is a real handy office locator tool online that you can also access. And it'll give you the phone number and the address of your local office, depending on where you live in the state. And then you can also call the DHS 800 number. And then DRS has an 877 number. It says the new DRS number, but I actually need to take that off because it was only new in April of 2020. We all know what happened in April of 2020, right? And that's why DRS got an 877 number. Definitely not new. But it's one of those COVID protocols that we are keeping around. All right, so eligibility criteria. You have to be a resident of Illinois. You have to be a U.S. citizen or a legal resident, right? So you're going to have to be a U.S. citizen, or you're going to have to be legally admitted living permanently in the United States. I know that's a little complicated, but that's what our counselors are here to help you figure out. You have to have a severe disability lasting at least 12 months or life. So that is going to exclude some folks who maybe, they broke a leg, they're expected to recover in 6 months, and they're going to be just fine. The home services program is not geared towards someone like that. Not to say that they don't have limitations and they're not going to have some struggles, but it doesn't rise to the having a disability lasting 12 months or life. So they have to require services with costs the same or less than nursing home services. This is as part of our eligibility criteria. It is something that we've had to plan for within the design of the program, and it's something that we have to provide assurances to the federal government, because we do get some money from the federal government for providing and administering the home services program. An individual needs to be at risk of nursing home placement. Like I said, our goal is to prevent people from going into nursing homes. So if you're at risk of going into a nursing home, we want to provide you those services that's going to keep you out of the nursing home. And that is measured by receiving a minimum score of 29 on the determination of need. And I'm going to refer to that as the DON. I talked about the age requirements already on our first slide. Now, for asset requirements, you have to have less than $17,500 in non-exempt assets for customers 18 and older, or $35,000 in family assets for customers under age 18. Now, we do have that non-exempt assets, right? That's an important piece. We do have some exempt assets. We do have some non-exempt assets. An example of an exempt asset would be your home. So it's going to be the customer's home, the parent's home for the minor child. That home is an exempt asset. And then that vehicle. So if you're an adult customer, you have a car, that asset, your vehicle, that would be considered an exempt asset. Also, some trusts. There are some trusts that are considered exempt assets. I could spend a lot of time talking about our exempt and non-exempt assets. If folks have, or maybe I'll say, as folks work with a counselor to determine if you're eligible, that counselor is going to walk you through what is exempt and what is not exempt, and help assist you in providing the documentation necessary to show that. Then the individual has to apply and cooperate with the Medicaid process. So remember, I said you don't have to actually have been approved for Medicaid, but you still have to try. You're going to have to apply and you're going to have to cooperate, meaning that if they ask you to send papers back, you got to do it. And then also if when you go to do your annual redetermination of eligibility, if you've been denied, you're going to have to apply again. So that will be an annual requirement. Now, once you submit your referral, you will be contacted to schedule an eligibility interview and assessment. All customers are required to participate in this interview and assessment with an HSP counselor. The HSP counselor is going to work with you to obtain the information that you need to complete the application, like some of that financial eligibility criteria that I talked about. They're also going to work with you to administer the DON, the determination of need, and then they're going to help you gathering required documents. So some documents that you would need to provide would be like identification card, social security card, and medical records. There are other documentations you would need to provide, and the HSP counselor is going to help you with that. So the determination of need is broken down into 3 different components, and it's based upon your home environment. So how do you as a person function and live within your current home environment? And it's primarily, it's going to be those basic activities of daily living. It's also going to cover the instrumental activities of daily living, like paying bills and telephoning and cleaning your house and all those things that are not your personal care tasks, like helping with hygiene or helping feed or helping with transferring, those types of tasks. There are 3 different components. The first is the Fulstein mini mental state examination. Then we will assess your impairment. So impairment of your functional ability. So what is it that you need help with? What are you able to do? What can't you do? All those impairments have to be connected to a diagnosed disability. It can't be enough to say, well, I really don't like cleaning my house. You know, I have this condition. I really don't like cleaning my house. It has to be, I have this condition, and this condition prevents me from being able to clean my house. So we have to be able to make those connections and then support it with medical documentation. And then the last part, the other part that we look at is your need. So, you know, we have all these functional impairments, things that we can't do, but sometimes we have people that help us with that within our home. So just because we can't do something doesn't mean that we need someone to come into our home and help us do that. So the counselor will walk through the customer and the customer's representative and talk to them about what is currently going on within their home, what kind of needs do they have, and then what can HSP do to assist with those needs. A scoring is based on the customer response, observation, evaluation, and then report of others, such as a representative. Customers can have anyone they'd like participate in the assessment. You know, if you have a legal guardian, we'd like your legal guardian participates, especially if it's a minor customer. You know, we need to have a mom, dad, legal guardian present and available to assist with the interview and assessment. So these are the determination of need areas that are included. I talked a bit about those already. So each one of these will be evaluated and discussed, and then the results will go into the determination of need and used to determine what the total overall DON score is to see if a person meets that minimum 29. Now, let's say a person gets a minimum of 29 on the DON, and all the other eligibility criteria are met, and you become an HSP customer, and you're like, well, what are how many services? You know, how many hours of services? What's the total dollar amount of services that I'm going to receive? Well, that is going to be based upon your DON score. And we hold on, there's something. I don't think I can get that bubble off my screen. There we go. Okay, so and we call those limits our service cost maximum. So those are monthly spending limits. We have 7 DON point range groupings. The total monthly service plan costs must fall within that range corresponding to the customer's DON score. Customers are not automatically going to receive the maximum amount of money that corresponds to their DON score. I'm going to show you those SCMs in a minute here. But I do want to say that our SCMs, they are reviewed and analyzed whenever our provider rates increase. HSP sets the provider rate. Can't pay more, can't pay less. We set what that provider rate is going to be. And whenever provider rates are increased, we will review those SCMs to see if the SCMs need to be increased, because we do not want our customers to have to lose any services because we increased a provider rate. Okay, so I'll just leave this up here on the screen for a moment. These are our ranges. You can see there's 2 different SCMs right now. Persons with disabilities has 1 set of limit. Traumatic brain injury, it's really just brain injury, and HIV/AIDS has another set limit. The BI and HIV/AIDS is slightly higher than the persons with disabilities because those individuals have access to a few other services that the persons with disabilities waiver do not have access to. Now you're probably asking me, hey Molly, what happens if I don't have Medicaid and I'm not in a waiver? Right? You said I can still receive services. What's my service cost maximum going to be? It's that persons with disabilities. So we're going to put you underneath that persons with disabilities, SCM. And remember, you don't automatically get the monthly amount, but that is the highest that could be received. So service planning. So HSP staff conduct eligibility interview and assessment for everybody who submits a referral. Once a person is determined eligible, Medicaid recipients that are enrolled in a managed care organization will be contacted by that MCO care coordinator for service planning. So if you're a Medicaid recipient and if you are enrolled in managed care, you will end up working with that managed care coordinator for your HSP services. About 70% of our population works with an MCO care coordinator for service planning. 30% of our population, they're going to remain and continue working with that HSP counselor for service planning and case management. So that HSP counselor that determined your eligibility, that's going to be the person who's going to do your service planning and who you're going to work with. Now, individual providers, they are our biggest service area. About 90% of our customer utilize individual providers. This would be considered our self-directed model. The worker is employed by the customer. They could be a personal assistant, or it could be nurses, CNA, LPN, or RNs can be IPs. They assist customers with your ADLs and your IADLs. So DRS, we're the fiscal intermediary, which means we process payroll, we issue paychecks, we work with the union. Our individual providers are unionized. So we work with the union, we handle the workers' comp, all that type of the business part of having an employee. We do that for our customers, and then the customer's responsibility is just the hiring, hiring, scheduling, training, directing, firing, disciplining. That piece of it is what our customers do. IPs are Medicaid providers. So even though they're employed by the customer, they are Medicaid providers, and they must comply with all HSP paperwork and policies. So agency providers, your worker is employed by the agency. Agencies must be approved by DRS HSP. It's going to be like your homemaker agencies, and they're going to provide homemakers or personal assistants. Or it could be your home health agencies, and they're going to provide you with your nursing care. CNAs, LPNs, RNs, those are the credential that would work for those home health agencies. There'll be an agency provider. Now there are a couple drawbacks to this type of service. It's a bit more expensive, and the customer may not have the choice of their provider, right? You may just have to get whoever the agency is able to send you at that time. Probably one of the reasons why the great majority of our customers choose to self-direct and have individual providers. So we do have other services that are available underneath the home services program besides individual providers and agency providers. Some people can receive respite. If you receive respite, then you're not going to have all the other services. It would just be respite care. It's still within the waiver. You'd still have to go through the eligibility process. We provide adult daycare, home delivered meals, electronic home response. That's your emergency home response. Environmental modification. We do things like modified bathrooms, build ramps, lifts. You know, if your home can't accommodate a ramp, you have those lifts that can take you from the ground up to your porch so you can get inside your house. We can do widened doorways. We can do all kinds of great things to assist a customer in being more independent in their home. There are limits on that. Right now, it's $25,000 over 5 years. So every 5 years, you would have another $25,000 that could be spent on a home modification. And your counselor or care coordinator would help you. And that's the same thing with assistive equipment. Assistive equipment falls into the home mod bucket. Now, if you're a person in the brain injury waiver, you would have access to some day habilitation, free vocational, cognitive behavioral therapy, and supported employment. And I put a definition of brain injury up here because there's all types of diagnoses that qualify as a brain injury, including those that result like a traumatic brain injury, right? An infection, anoxia, stroke, aneurysm, an electrical injury, a malignant neoplasm, toxic encephalopathy, and some congenital disabilities, such as cerebral palsy, epilepsy, are not eligible diagnosis, nor are degenerative neurological disorders due to aging, such as dementia or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's disease. Those are not considered to be brain injuries for the purposes of this waiver program. Now, other services available to persons with HIV/AIDS and the brain injury waiver customers are case management. So more intensive case management that is provided by a community-based organization. All right, there you go. That's my high-level overview of HSP. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Coming right up. Sorry about that. I have a little trouble with my technology today. Okay, the first question is, does a 2-year-old with Down syndrome qualify for the home services program?
Okay. So questions like that I'm not able to answer because a customer would have to go through and have the determination of need assessment administered in order to know what their score was. If a person of any age, so if a child scored 29 on the DAWN, then they would be eligible as far as DAWN point eligible for the home services program. I can speak generally, and I'll speak generally about something, it's called, I can speak generally about the philosophy that parents are required legally to provide care for their children. There are some things that children are able to do, and some things children are not able to do. And when I say children, I'm talking about just the average child, right? An average child without a disability. So if you think about what a 2-year-old could do, could the average 2-year-old prepare their own meals, or could they wash their own clothes, or could they completely go to the bathroom by themselves? So those are types of things that parents have to help every child with, regardless of the child's disability. So when you look at a child, especially a child who is a younger age, if the things that the child is struggling with, those are things that every child, well, not every, again, I'm going to say average, right? Those are things that the average child of that age are going to struggle with. You're not going to expect a 2-year-old to prepare their own meals, cut their food, do their laundry. So when administering the DAWN for customers, their age is going to be taken into consideration, and whether or not it's something that a child of that age and the average child of that age would be expected to do. And if it is, then points are not going to be awarded.
Okay. All right, thank you. If when receive PUNS funding, is this one waiver an option? And how is this different than the other home waiver?
Sure. So a person can only be in one waiver at a time. So when you say PUNS funding, that actually means that a person is enrolled in one of the Division of Developmental Disabilities waivers. If a person is enrolled in one of the DD waivers, they cannot also receive services from the home services program. So they would have to choose one program or the other.
Okay. All right. Is fetal alcohol syndrome classified as a brain injury?
If it was not on that list, then it is not considered a brain injury. So that would be no.
Okay. How can a single mother of 2 children with disabilities who is not able to work and was approved for respite care only because she receives non-waiver nursing services through the Division of Specialized Care for Children get a much-needed wheelchair lift for the house? Mom is not able to lift the wheelchair up the stairs to get into the house.
Good, great question. So if you're familiar with local centers for independent living, they have grant funds from the Department of Human Services to administer a home modification program. The home modification program is open to all citizens of Illinois with a disability. So my advice would be, man, as soon as you get off this training, contact your local Center for Independent Living. Tell them that you have a child with a disability and that you would be interested in the home modification program. Your current status as receiving respite services does not make you eligible for a home modification. So there may be a little, I'm really glad you asked me this question, because I will, let me put it this way, whoever that mom is, right? When you call your local Center for Independent Living, if you have any concerns, or if there's any question about the fact that your child receives respite services from HSP, I want you to reach out to me, please.
Okay, so is this different, moving on, different kind of question. So is this different from PUNS in the sense that it is only used to pay workers, not the parents as the caregivers?
So again, so PUNS has nothing to do with the Division of Rehabilitation Services Home Services Program. PUNS is very specific to the Division of Developmental Disabilities. Now, your next question is, what was the second part of that question having to do with paying caregivers?
Yeah, not the parents as caregivers. So is it used only to pay the workers, not parents as workers?
Sure. So in some situations, a parent can be paid to provide some services to their child. Now, when I say child, I'm talking about children under 18, right? Because when you become 18, you're an adult. I'm a mom, right? So I call him my adult child. Always a child, always your baby, but technically an adult. So I'm not talking about adult children. I'm talking about your children underneath 18. There are some situations where that parent can be paid to provide certain services called extraordinary care to their child. I didn't talk about that today because that's going into a lot of detail. And honestly, I could do an 8-hour presentation on HSP. I will tell you though, your HSP counselor will assist you with that if your child becomes eligible.
Okay. I think you may have answered this, but it's good to clarify. I was looking for the age requirements. Are services available to someone under the age of 3?
Right. So we have no lower age limit. You can send a referral. I will say that most young children are not going to be determined eligible if their care needs are such that are similar to every other child of that age that needs assistance, because parents have a legal obligation to provide the basic care for their children, regardless if they have a disability or not. Now, having said that, I don't mean that you should not try to submit a referral. I don't want anything I've said here to make anyone think I'm trying to discourage people from submitting a referral. I'm simply trying to explain a complicated concept in a short amount of time. If you do submit a referral and it is something where your child is so young that most of those tasks are things that the parent would be legally obligated to provide, then that HSP counselor is going to assist you in understanding that.
Will a copy of this presentation be made available to the participants of today's call?
Yes.
Yeah, and Linda, I'll make this a PDF for you so you can provide the PDF slides.
All right, can we receive support now while waiting, while we wait to be polled? I've been on the PUN, my child has been on the PUNS list for as an 18-year-old who qualifies but is in a transition program at school. So while
Yes,
waiting to be polled.
Yeah, and especially for those older children, you know, or adult children, as you're waiting to be pulled off the PUNS list, you can submit a referral to DRS, and if you are eligible, you can receive services from DRS. We work closely with staff from the Division of Developmental Disabilities when we have people that are transitioning from our services to their services once they're able to obtain DD funding.
All right, next question. My son is a nonverbal 12-year-old. It is next to impossible for me to work unless he is at school. I have absolutely zero help with him from family or his father. What are my options to get some help either financially or with care so I can work?
Sure. So HSP does not provide any financial assistance to our customers. We do pay for services to be provided. So I would suggest that you submit a referral either online or by calling or going into your local DRS office and to see if your child is eligible.
And she noted that he also has a rare genetic condition. So. Okay, next question. What is the time frame of a family hearing from a DRS counselor after a referral has been submitted?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can't answer that statewide. Our timeframes are going to differ. We have local offices in all areas of the state, covering all counties of the state. We encourage folks to submit referrals, and then they will be assessed in order they are received. So some areas of the state, you may be contacted a little quicker than other areas of the state, just simply due to the demand of individuals requesting services in your geographic area. I will say that when you submit the referral, and then if you use that office locator, you'll know what office your referral has been sent to. And you could always call to follow up if you wanted to get more information on what your time frame would be. I'm just not able to answer that on a statewide basis.
Okay. All right, that wraps it up. They say thank you. And Molly, thank you very much for your presentation. Linda?
Molly, can I ask one other question or clarify something? It was a question from another Molly. When you have an adult child, someone over the age of 18, am I correct that parents can then be paid as the personal assistant versus someone who's caring for a minor child under the waiver?
Yes. So adult children, right?
Right.
Once your child hits 18,
yeah.
Yep. Once your child hits 18, you're no longer legally obligated to provide care for that child. So you could be paid to provide services, all services listed on the service plan, so long as you didn't bump up into any of our other policies. Of course, there's some limits on overtime. There's limits on working more than 16 hours in a day. So there's that's the 8-hour presentation versus your 30-minute presentation, right? So yes, once they hit 18. Now under 18, you can still be paid to provide some services to your minor child. We call that legally responsible individuals. However, there are more limits on that. There are limits. It gets into a concept called extraordinary care, and it gets into a concept of, what would what would be considered above and beyond what that legally responsible individual would have to do. Again, that's like the 8-hour presentation versus the 30-minute one.
And can I just say for everyone that it's very common when people are waiting on the PUNS list to be PUNS selected to explore DRS Home Services to see if it might be a fit for them while you're waiting. And then you can decide if you are PUNS selected, whether Home Services fits you better, or if you want to switch. As you said, you can't have both, but then you can decide, okay, which one meets my needs better. And some families find that Home Services is much better for them and others do not. So that's just something to consider. Thanks, Molly. Eliza, do you want to pull up your screen? Thank you so much. And she is sticking around, I think, till the end in case something else comes up after you hear the DD home-based waiver questions. You might, have another question for Molly. Looks good.
Can you guys see the slides?
We can.
Perfect. All right, good morning, or is it afternoon? I'm Eliza Jones. I am the director at Clearbrook for Home-Based Services, and I thank you for giving us this opportunity to present to you guys today. Okay, so Clearbrook. Clearbrook is actually the largest home-based provider in the state of Illinois. We serve over 1,700 families in 16 different counties. Services are delivered.
It's not, the slide isn't switching. Let's see. All right, can you guys still see your slides? Do you guys see Clearbrook at a glance?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Sorry about that, guys. Little technical issues over here. So like I was saying, the services that we offer our clients, they are delivered in the family home, in the natural home environment, and we have a strong focus of community integration here at Clearbrook. We have 3 home-based locations. Our main one is here in Arlington Heights. We have a small location south, which is Downers Grove office, and another one in the Crystal Lake area.
Thank you, Eliza. Now, where do we start?
Okay, so you would contact your ISC, which is your Independent Service Coordinator. There is a link right here. Depending on where you live, you would select the region that serves your area. And for us right now, we currently use Community Alternatives Unlimited, Service Inc., Community Service Options, and Suburban Access. So those are the 4 that we currently work with. So on these 2 links, you'll get the slideshow so you can look up what area serves your region. And then from there, I know somebody was asking about the PUNS, so just a little information. Also, you'll notice that there are tons of acronyms, and slowly but surely you will learn all the acronyms, and we are here to help you with that as well. So to get on the PUNS list, the person must have a developmental disability. You would contact your ISC to determine eligibility. They would conduct the interview and assessment. And from there are 2 categories on the PUNS. The 2 categories are seeking services, and that's for individuals who are currently in need or desire supports, and planning for services. Those are the individuals who don't currently want support, but they may want it in the future. The end goal is that a person aged 18 or older in the seeking service category will be selected from the PUNS in 60 months or 5 years. That obviously is still a work in progress. Prior to this, I want to say this changed just not that long, a couple years ago. It was a lottery system, so it was a long waiting list. And I think that with this change, it just makes sense because you have families that are waiting for long periods of time to get services that are really needed for their clients. And then let's see, the PUNS is a database for individuals that live in Illinois. It is for individuals who are in need, like I said, or want developmental disability services. One thing I want to stress is I speak to many families about this because this comes up all the time. Once you're on the PUNS list, it is very important that you are in communication with your ISA, your ISC, because if you have certain changes, you want to make sure that the ISA is updating that. You want to make sure where you are on the list. You just want to make sure you have the most updated information so that if that need changes and you're in crisis, that ISA can address it however they need to. Right.
All right, let's talk about systemic programming. For home-based services, or HBS, we work in conjunction with community day services, various independent service coordination agencies, or ISAs, schools, Access, which is our fiscal employer agent. We work with families, various agencies and hospitals, community mental health centers, and other referral agents. All right, now let's talk about the difference in waivers. First, we have our children's home-based waiver, which is CHBS. This is 2 times the SSI amount at $18.86 per month. And it does provide flexible spending. So it carries on through the calendar year and you can double up in one given month, keeping in mind that you are borrowing from future months. In previous years, however, parents were not allowed to provide PSW services under the children's waiver. But as of last year, if the consumer is 18 under the CHBS waiver, parents are allowed to provide PSW services. And you can also hire family members. On the other hand, we have our adult home-based services, AHBS. This is 3 times the SSI amount at $28.29 per month. However, there is no flexible spending. It is a use it or lose it. It cannot roll over. It is month-to-month basis. The adult home-based services program does permit parents or other legally responsible adults to provide personal support services, but does prohibit spouses and children from providing these services. And we can also hire family members. All right, Eliza, we have chosen Clearbrook as a provider. Now what?
Great. So what happens is the ISC will send a referral packet to our admissions department. And after that, the admissions department will then send the file to my team, which is the intake department. And then we will schedule a meeting with the family. We will talk about the personal plan that was sent by the ISC. We'll come up with implementation strategies. We assist with making sure that the EOR is in place. We then discuss the different models that Clearbrook offers. Either model you choose though, we do have our SCAs, which are our case managers. They are, again, doesn't matter what model, we do require SCAs to have quarterly visits with the families.
All right, let's talk about the different models through Clearbrook. First, we have our self-directed model where the individual selects a provider agency, such as ourselves, Clearbrook, to help them with a variety of services and supports. In the self-directed model, the individual chooses the employer to hire personal support workers and are required to work with a fiscal employer agent. In this case, it is called Access. It is a private company that the division has selected to assist with HBS families with background checks, taxes, and payroll functions. Important to note when selecting an employer and PSW, please ensure that this is someone who understands the role. It is not just approving hours, making sure you're within the budget, but it also requires supervision, training your PSW, and making sure that those PSWs provide active treatment to the individual and the goals they'd like to work on. On the other hand, we have our agency-based model. This is where the individual selects Clearbrook or another provider agency to help with services, and we employ the direct support professionals. Essentially, PSW and DSP are pretty synonymous. It's just different requirements, which we will go over in the next following slides. For agency, unlike self-directed, unfortunately, we cannot hire parents. For both self-directed and agency model, you will have a case manager, and the only difference is the responsibilities and requirements. Let's say you choose to opt out and you want to go completely self-directed, you want to manage your own budget. This is where the individual manages their own program without the assistance of a provider agency, but you will still work in conjunction with your ISA, your individual service coordinators. Ultimately, the family is responsible for handling all matters regarding PSW services and all things SDAs work on, such as budgeting, intermediary supports with access, and all behind the scenes tasks, such as service facilitation, documentation maintenance, and one-time funding, which we will also go over. All right, what does an SDA do? SDAs, self-direction assistants, are also case managers. We provide support services to the individual in conjunction with the family. We provide interface with a fiscal intermediary, so access, and provide assistance with budgeting through that. SDAs also provide families with quarterly face-to-face contacts to check in to see what the client needs. We do prefer meetings to be in person. However, if something comes up, such as illnesses, vacations, we can accommodate and do a virtual or phone call with the intention of meeting the family in person for the following visit. All in all, our goal is to build that rapport and relationship with the family for the best interest of the client. SDAs also serve as a primary contact for the individual. We utilize the professional skills to provide meaningful programming and ensuring compliance with regulatory bodies, such as assistance with Medicaid insurance redeterminations, doing monthly Medicaid status checks. As we are a Medicaid funded program, we need to make sure that the client's Medicaid is in place. In addition, we provide resources relevant to the individual's needs and developing the employer of record and or implementation strategies of the individual. All right, here are some staff eligibility requirements. Self-direction versus agency-based model. For both, you must be 18 years and older, but with self-direction, you do not need a high school diploma or a GED. However, you must pass background checks, fingerprints, and you are required to work with access to enroll PSWs.
And I just want to add with self-direction, I know Krizzia has stated the employer, whoever you select as employer, they are responsible for any timesheet issues, any if you have multiple workers, if there's any disciplinary, all things that an employer would do, that employer of record would be responsible in the self-directed model.
Thank you. On the other hand, we have our agency-based model. So again, you have to be 18 years or older and have a high school diploma or a GED. And these are some of our various backgrounds that they must pass, such as TB test, physical and drug, fingerprints, motor vehicle reports. All staff must have a valid Illinois driver's license. They will also be registered into the healthcare aid registry and must be CPR and first aid certified. After hire, the applicants must complete direct support person training as mandated by DHS. All right, Clearbrook also has counseling and behavioral services. We have a board certified behavior analyst program. They conduct assessments and implement such as behavior plans. We also have individual/group counseling through our community mental health center, CMHC. These are our various sites: Rolling Meadows, Crystal Lake, and most recently opened, Libertyville. Now let's talk about one-time funding. All home community-based waiver clients are entitled to one-time funding, which is $15,000 that they receive every 5 years on things like home modifications, such as ramps, vehicle modifications. Do they need a wheelchair lift? Adaptive equipment, such as walkers or scooters. Assistive technology such as communication devices. Just like the one-time funding, let me go here. All right, we have temporary assistance, which is 53C, crisis funding. Just like one-time funding, it does require approval from the state. Crisis funding provides $4,000 for personal support workers spread out over 2 months. And these dollars are in addition to the regular budget through access. This is approved when the primary caregiver cannot care due to illness, surgery, or death. About after 2 months.
So after 2 months, if you feel that you still need the emergency funding, we can always reapply. The one thing that I will note that I've experienced with some of my families is sometimes families will hire one PSW. I think it's always good to have a backup PSW. It does take anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks to process the application for a new worker. So I just like to tell families, you have one PSW, just think about having another one, because you never know when you or that personal support worker is not available to work because of needs like this for just emergency situations.
Other additional services Clearbrook provides, we provide community day services. I'm going to circle back to the three. We also provide counseling for unpaid caregivers. Our community mental health center, we accept internal and external referrals, as we also serve the community. As far as physical therapy, occupational and speech therapy, these do require doctor's prescriptions. And important to note that our PT, OT, and speech therapists only provide evaluations. However, they can direct you to the right path if you do need one-on-one supports.
Challenges of home-based services. One of the challenges I think we all know at home know is that recruitment and retention of PSWs. Since COVID happened, finding workers has been a struggle, not just for Clearbrook, but for many agencies. There's that challenge of all these other positions outside of disability world that, you know, will let you work from home for the same pay. So that is just the challenges I think that everyone faces. And it's always good to just get that out there, because I think with that communication, you know, families and providers understand that it can take time to find staff. It can take a long time. And sometimes we want to make sure the staff we hire, they're in it because they want to help, not just to collect a paycheck. I think that's really important for us, that people are not just picking up jobs because they want to get paid. We want to make sure that the client is having a successful transition. We want to make sure that we can fulfill these expectations for families, but at the same time, we want to make sure that our workers are taking the clients out. They are having active treatment, not just sitting at home babysitting. So that is one of the struggles, is finding staff. Services are provided across a large geographical area, making staff supervision really challenging as well. So like I said, we serve over 16 different counties. So sometimes it is hard to find staff in those smaller areas. And many families and persons served are in crisis. So sometimes the waiver, as much as it's beneficial, sometimes it doesn't meet the client's needs all the time. It just won't, but it is helpful. Maintaining a connection between families and staff, and that's why we have our quarterly visits with our families, because we want to make sure that we are in the loop about any changes, any assistance, any resources, anything the client needs, so that they can live a fulfilled life. Provider enrollment and delay of payments, DHS, right? So sometimes things won't get paid out on time, and that's just out of our control. So those are some challenges of home base, but I think that home base is not for everyone, but for those who can use it, it is very beneficial.
Absolutely. All right. Do you have any questions?
I'd like to start with a couple things. First, in terms of comparing the two waivers, okay? So DRS's waiver that Molly talked about earlier is based on need. This waiver is a flat rate, no matter who gets it, whether 2 times SSI for children or 3 times SSI for adults. With that money, you can use it in different ways. So Molly, I think you're still on. Am I correct in saying or telling people that the home services program is primarily serving people within their home, versus the DDD home-based waiver is primarily for home and community? So for community day services, going out in the community, you can use it for supported employment, you can use it for different things. Is that a correct assumption, Molly, for DRS?
No, I mean, what you've said is not wrong. However, waivers are designed to provide services to a population of persons with similar conditions or needs or diagnoses. So the Division of Rehabilitation Services, our waivers are designed for persons with disabilities, is primarily designed for persons with physical disabilities, persons with HIV/AIDS. That's obvious in the title. Persons with brain injury, again, obvious in the title. Now, because of the way our eligibility assessment is structured and our eligibility criteria, people with disabilities that are not just physical disabilities can become eligible for HSP. However, that the primary design is for those persons that have a physical disability that need assistance with living independently in their home. And so that's the piece where I was like, you're not wrong, but it's not the whole story, right? Because we also provide adult daycare services. We do provide some community rehabilitation services. Again, that's targeted more towards the person with the brain injury who has had a significant loss in functioning and ability due to their brain injury, especially those who are in the very early stages of recovery from a brain injury, where they can really achieve the most progress towards rehabilitation and regaining skills that they've lost. They really benefit from something like that. Now, that service is very different than the community day services offered by the Division of Developmental Disabilities. Those waivers are focused on people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So that's why you have those services, those wraparound services that are very specific to some of the needs, to the needs of persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities, where you're not going to see those services so much with the Division of Rehabilitation Home Services Program, because that's not our target population. So with the Division of DD services, with those waivers, you're going to have ABA therapy. You're going to have the community day services. You're going to have like intermittent SILA or 24-hour SILA services. You're going to have folks, you know, with like the developmental or intellectual disability that cannot maintain a household, you know, primarily due to their disability. We're over on the HSP side of things. You could have the person with multiple sclerosis who has maintained a household successfully, and they're now experiencing a decline in their functioning due to the degenerative nature of their condition. They can still maintain their household, you know, but now they need assistance. They need someone to come in their house so that they can continue to be as independent as possible and avoid nursing home placement. So the focus, the target population of the waiver is going to drive the services that are available to persons within that waiver.
Thank you.
Okay. Is the one-time funding going to increase in the future, or will it stay at $15,000? I thought I heard it was going to increase to $20,000, but not sure if that was correct.
So that is a great question. I think that's a question we all have.
Yeah.
Is that if it increases, when will it increase? So I don't have a date. I heard that it would as well, but when, I have no idea. It's been 15,000 since I started 10 years ago. So I'm hoping soon.
Yeah. Good point. Can Clearbrook be our agency for home-based services and refer us to other agency day programs? I have heard that Clearbrook's day programs mainly prioritize their SILA clients, and Pursuit's day program interest list is prohibitively long.
It is long. So the ISC is the one responsible for referrals outside of Clearbrook. If we hear of anything that we hear other agencies have openings, we definitely will let the family and the ISA know so that the ISA can send into referral. But we do not send referrals to other agencies.
Okay. So, but you would let your families know if you know of other day programs that might work better for their loved one. Is that?
Yes.
Okay, so it's worth families asking.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Okay. All right. What do the daycares look like for DRS? Are they available to all under DRS? How does it differ from community day services under DDD? So DRS day services versus DDD day services.
Okay, great question. So the services provided, the day services provided underneath the DRS waivers, one is you have the adult daycare. And that is going to be your traditional adult daycare environment. It's primarily geared towards adults, elderly individuals, where they would go for any number of hours during the day. We don't really have so much of a limit, although it all comes out of your service cost maximum. So whatever hours are focused towards adult daycare, that is going to come out of your service cost maximum costs. The other day rehabilitation services that we will fund, those are designed for the person who is has a brain injury, and they're working to regain skills that have been lost as a result of their diagnosis, their medical condition. Maybe they were in an accident. That is the design of those services.
Molly, who provides the adult daycare? Like, what is it, an organizational thing, a community thing? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, so they're community-based organizations. I can't think of the names of any of them off the top of my head. Some areas of the state have many more service providers available than others. It's more of a socialization-based model. They do provide oversight. They do work to assist persons with tasks they may be attempting to learn or do on their own. But it's not the same concept as like dayhabilitation, the community day services offered through DD, where there's active treatment. And I apologize if that's not a term that's used anymore. I've been kind of out of the DD world for a little while, but the community day services focus was, on active treatment and assisting individuals in gaining or acquiring skills. So for rehabilitation, you're acquiring lost skills that was lost. You're trying to get that back. A lot of times for persons with intellectual or developmental disabilities, they did not have those skills. It takes them longer to learn things than the average person. So they need more assistance in learning how to do things than the average person does.
Eliza and Krizzia, did you want to add anything to that question about the day services under DDD versus DRS?
For DDD, our day programs, they provide the community integration. So it's a lot of individuals that, so it's 115 hours per month if you are accepted full-time. Obviously, again, like we noted, the challenges due to short staffing, individuals sometimes can't attend 5 days a week because we don't have enough staff. But if you are in our day program, we do have programs that have a lot of community integration. That includes going to the zoo, going to the pumpkin patch, going to the mall, going to the exercise facility. If you are indoors, it's active treatment in the sense of socializing with your peers, crafts, games. Some individuals like to do not piecework, but some individuals like to shred. They just like to keep their hands moving and do things of that nature. So I think for our day program, it's very hands-on in the sense that we're trying to find certain skill sets and have the client find some enjoyment. I don't really know too much of DRS's daycare centers, so it is not a daycare center for us. It's more active treatment.
Yeah, they're not daycare centers either. It's day services. Yeah,
day services.
Okay. Next question. My 39-year-old son currently receives DHS home-based services. Mother and father are PAs. I think that would be PSWs. PAs. He was pulled from, I get confused. He was pulled from the PUNS list in July. If we choose to switch to the DDD waiver, will the home modifications we received, ceiling lift, and outdoor porch lift be eligible for maintenance and or repairs? Also, if we switch maybe we'll start with this one. Let's go with that question first. There's like 2 to 3 questions within this. They're good questions.
Okay, so I think that's my question. So it sounds like this person is currently receiving services through DRS.
Yes.
Yes.
Services,
Okay.
yes. Mhm.
If you decide to receive services through the division of DD, then DRS would no longer pay for repair to home modification.
Then would DDD pick that up, Eliza?
For repairs.
Yes.
So we have done repairs. It honestly depends on how the request is written. So for example, I know we've had wheelchair repairs and it's more because of the limited budget. It is better it's easier and quicker and cheaper to get something repaired than starting fresh, right? From starting from scratch and having to go through the 15K again. So I'm going to say it depends. It depends on the company if they're willing to do the repair, and it depends on if DHS feels that that is something they can cover. So I can't really say yes or no.
So it would be necessary to work with the SDA to
Absolutely.
and even the ISC.
Absolutely.
To find out what would be covered and how that could be handled and written and maybe appealed or
I was
rejected.
going to say that, Barbara. So appealing is, if it does get denied, I think that appeal process, if we can stress, again, it is cheaper and it's quicker to get it repaired than have to start over. Because sometimes what if you use your 15K and it hasn't even, you're not past your 5 years, then you left with $0. So you can't even start from scratch anyway. So sometimes it's just better to appeal it if it gets denied.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
And I do want to add, in addition to working in consistently with your ISC and SDA, work with the vendors as well to establish whether they're able to accommodate for that, such as repairs and maintenance. And the SDAs do compile all the one-time funding paperwork in the packet, and we'll be able to see the bid from the vendor with everything, what they'll cover, etc. One thing I do want to say is there are certain items that are not qualified as a one-time funding item, such as DMEs. Now, DMEs are durable medical equipment, such as wheelchairs, which are typically covered by insurance. In that situation, you just request a prescription from your doctor, the need for the wheelchair, and submit it to your insurance. Say the DME gets denied, then we take that denial letter, and then we go through the one-time funding process.
Okay. Also, if we switch programs, can we look at potential ICFs? He is on a ventilator at night and requires full physical care, even if we are not ready to receive care outside of our home right now. So I guess, can they tour IFCs to see what there is? Is that correct?
Absolutely. You can tour if you're in a home-based program. If your ISSA submits a referral, you can tour day programs, you can tour SILAs, you can tour ICFs. Absolutely.
And they don't have to wait to be switched to a different division.
No, not to tour.
You can do that at any time. Okay.
Absolutely.
Great. I believe that was the last question. Linda, are there any more questions on your end?
I don't see any questions. The one thing I just want to mention, and hopefully this is old news to everyone, but if you are on the PUNS list waiting for PUN selection, you must be in the seeking services category. I cannot stress it enough. And I don't think there's any reason not to get into seeking services well before your child is even in transition. If they're now selecting children, doing some children's selection, so you could be chosen for the children's waiver. Again, it's a 4 or 5 year wait starting at age 18. Please be sure you are in seeking services if you're on the PUNS list, please, because you won't be selected if you're not. Okay, any other questions from anyone? I will definitely get the PowerPoints to everyone who registered for both of for the DRS home services and DDD home based. If there's anything else that comes up, questions, you know, we can try and help you, or you can reach out to our presenters today for more stuff. I appreciate your time, all of you. Molly, Eliza, Krizzia, thank you so much for your time. And when is your turn? Oh, it's an email actually to check your status on the PUNS list when you'll be selected, and it is in one of the PowerPoints that we're sending you, so you will have that. It's an email that you will send to DDD just saying your child's name, their birthday, I think your address, maybe, I can't remember, it's on there, but that link is in one of the presentations, and you can just send them an email and they'll give you an estimated date for selection. Nothing else? All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. We appreciate it. Hopefully we'll be starting back up on Friday Forums after the holidays. We always take December off, so watch for new things coming online then. And thanks. Have a good weekend and good rest of your day.